And welcome back to Never Don't Ask with me, John Martin, and we have another station review. So, the 4th of July was the 205th anniversary of American independence. So, to celebrate, we're going to the TFL station of Maryland, East London. Maryland Station sits in a box between roads. Its entrance is on Leytonstone Road, near its junction with Forest Lane. This is to the north of the station. To the east is Water Lane, to the south is Mambley Park Lane, and to the west is Maryland Point. Stratford is the area to the west, Forest Gate to the east, Leyton is to the north, and Plaistow to the south. We are on the Great Eastern Main Line, but services here are run under Crossrail Elizabeth Line brand by TfL. Stratford is just under half a mile to the west, and Forest Gate a smidge over 3/4 of a mile to the east. The story of this station begins with the rapid expansion of the Great Eastern Railway during the 19th century, the company having been formed in 1862 through the amalgamation of several railways serving East Anglia and Essex and East London, with its main London terminus at London Liverpool Street. As London suburbs expanded eastwards, new housing developments appeared around Stratford, Forest Gate, and Leytonstone, creating demand for additional local stations. To serve this growing population, the Great Eastern Railway opened the station on the 6th of January 1873 under the name Maryland Point. The name came from the nearby settlement of Maryland Point, itself named after a 18th century estate rather than the American state, although the estate's name may have ultimately been inspired by Maryland in the United States. The new station was relatively simple, providing people with access to the railway. When Maryland Point opened, the Great Eastern Main Line consisted of only 2 tracks through the area. This quickly became a problem. Great Eastern Railway was carrying ever-increasing numbers of suburban commuters alongside express trains bound for Essex, Suffolk, Norfolk. Slow local trains and fast long-distance services were competing over the same tracks, creating congestion and limiting capacity. So, Great Eastern undertook one of the largest engineering projects on the network during the late Victorian period. During the 1880s and 1890s, the line through Maryland was widened from 2 tracks to 4. This required completely rebuilding or almost completely rebuilding the station. The original alignment became the centre pair of tracks, while new outer local lines were added for stopping services. New platforms, footbridges, station entrances were constructed, giving Maryland a 4-platform layout. Under the LNER ownership, which happened in 1923, the station acquired the name it survives today. On the 28th of October 1940, in the midst of the Second World War, the word point was officially dropped, leaving it simply as Maryland. Reason was largely administrative, reflecting the fact that the surrounding area had long since become known as Maryland. Another major change came after the war. Britain's railways were nationalised in 1948 and Maryland became part of British Railways. During the late 1940s, the station buildings were substantially rebuilt, reflecting post-war efforts to modernise the network while replacing infrastructure that had become outdated or suffered wartime wear. Throughout the following decades, Maryland remained an unassuming suburban station serving stopping trains between Liverpool Street, Gideon Park, and Shenfield. Express services continued to race through just as they had done since Victorian times. Railways changed again in the 1990s with privatisation of British Rail. Infrastructure passed to Railtrack, while train services were franchised off to private operators. Maryland consequently experienced a succession of operators over the next 2 decades, including first Great Eastern, National Express East Anglia, and Balliol Greater Anglia from 2012. Although branding changed repeatedly, the station itself remained largely unchanged and was often regarded as one of the quieter stations on the Great Eastern Main Line. Its fortunes began to change with the arrival of Crossrail project. Although Maryland would not receive a dramatic new station building, engineers recognised that significant improvements would be needed if it were to become part of the new railway. Beginning in the late 2010s, the station underwent a comprehensive programme of upgrades led by Crossrail, Network Rail, Transport for London. New lifts were installed, platforms extended, canopies refurbished, separate access provided throughout the station. Modern passenger information systems, improved lighting, enhanced accessibility, transformed what had previously been one of the least modern stations on the route. During the transition to Crossrail, services were transferred to TfL Rail in the end of May 2015, marking the beginning of Transport for London's management of the route. Then, 24th of May 2022, Maryland officially became part of the Liz line when central section of the line opened. For the first time in its history, passengers from Maryland could travel directly through central London without changing trains. We have 4 platforms here. Platforms 1 and 4 are side platforms with 2 and 3 forming an island in the centre. Platform 1 is for Elizabeth line trains towards London and is 168 metres long. Platform 2 is served by Elizabeth line's trains into Essex and is 169 metres long. Platform 3 is on the Great Anglia route into London. Trains seldom stop here, but it's 168 metres long. Platform 4 is passed by services towards Essex and East Anglia and is 167 metres long. At 204 metres long, Elizabeth line trains have to use selective door opening to serve the station. I don't have a classification for Maryland from my normal sources, but I'm led to believe it's a category D for medium staffed stations. Platforms are linked by an overbridge. Marked for services 7 out of 10. There are 8 trains an hour in each direction running between London Paddington and Shenfield. Shenfield is just over half an hour. Romford is 18 minutes. Ilford is 7. Stratford is 3 minutes. Liverpool Street is 11. Bond Street 19. Paddington is 23. 2 trains an hour extend beyond Paddington to Heathrow. Ealing Broadway is 33 minutes away and Heathrow Central just over 3/4 an hour. During peak times, the 16 trains per hour increase to 25. Some of these directly run into the surface level platforms at Liverpool Street. From the 24-25 figures, the most popular destination is Stratford, with 334,489 journeys. Yes, less than half a mile. Although I assume they'll be changing to another TfL mode of transport rather than using it as a destination itself. The next 4 destinations were Tottenham Court Road, London Liverpool Street, Farringdon and Whitechapel. And now to the passenger numbers. Maryland had 4,055,448 entries and exits. This works out at 11,111 passengers per day. We had 2,283 services per week, which gives us 34.2 passengers per train. Passenger numbers were down on last year, but massively up on the pre-COVID, pre-Crossrail numbers. When I used to regularly travel through there in the 1990s, Maryland saw just a 20th of the passengers it does today. Marks for onward travel, 2 out of 5. We have 3 bus routes through here. The 69, the 257 and the N8. The 69 runs Walthamstow to Canning Town, the 257 runs Walthamstow to Stratford, and the N8 is a night bus between Hainault and Oxford Circus. These buses also Stratford, which obviously had better rail connections. I did walk to Wanstead Park Overground from here, but it's obviously better to go from Forest Gate, which has an out-of-station interchange. Marks for accessibility, 9 out of 10. We're good here. This is an old station, but a whole chunk of investment was made to put all the accessibility into it. All the platforms with lifts. The booking hall is a step or 2 above street level. There is a lift down from the booking hall to the street. We have, as expected, indicators, announcements, and the station is staffed. Marked for station facilities, 5 out of 10. There isn't a car park here, but there's some outside bike parking with quite stylish round Well, they're not really racks, but they're basically things you lock your bike to. We have a ticket office that opens 6 days a week. All platforms have seating and there are canopies, so you don't have to wait in the rain. There aren't waiting rooms really, but with such a frequent service, this isn't a huge negative. Marks for care and character, 15 out of 20. I've gone through this station many times back in the pre-crossroad days and always stood out against the other stations further out of London. The light tiling gives it a uniform feel to the station and makes it feel like part of London transport, which is odd because it had that feel since way before TfL took it over. We have some coloured art tiles on platform 1, which adds to the character. The fence between platform 2 and 3 is an issue. It limits crowd flow, but however, as we've seen, most people will be travelling into London, so this will only be for people leaving the station. And it does mean that people won't be straying near the edge of the fast inbound London platform. Marked for nearby things, 5 out of 10. We're in a very vibrant area here, revitalised over the last few decades from masses of investment. There are a bunch of bars and takeaways nearby. As for destinations, not so much. Stratford Shopping Centre is nearby, but this isn't Westfield, it's the older one, but Stratford Station is nearer. Although it might be less hassle than negotiating Stratford. Similarly, Westfield is not a long walk, but both Stratford and Stratford not so international are nearer, with the Olympic Park be on the centre. Overall, we get 43 out of 65, which is 66%. It's an accessible station with high frequency of service, and I like the tiling. It makes it seem London Undergroundy, but it's not a destination station. There are a load of things within walking distance, but both the Stratfords and Forest Gate stations are nearer to most points of interest. Thanks once again for watching this as I travel around the country. Please like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified of the next station review.